Welcome back, everybody, to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast. I'm so glad that you're here and that you're taking time out of your busy day to just tune in. And I hope you're thinking, hey, I wonder who's on the show today. Because today I have a special guest. His name is Don Hawker. And Don, I'd like to just welcome you right out of the gate to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.
Yes, you too. Let me tell the listeners about, or perhaps the viewers, if you're watching here on YouTube, about Don. He's a certified lay speaker in the Methodist Church, and he spent time in prayer and Bible study every morning for the past 11 years with his beloved dog Lucy at his feet. After the passing of Lucy, Don was inspired to write the book, Just Me, Lucy, and the Lord, which is a 31-day devotional about the discipline of daily devotional time with God. And that's where we're gonna really start our conversation, Don, because I know that you want to share your experience about the importance of daily devotional time with God. Why is that so important?
Well, it's all about relationships. And in order to have a strong, thriving relationship with anyone, you have to spend time with it. And to have a strong, thriving relationship with God, you need to spend time with God. And certainly reading His Word every day, praying, meditating, all of those spiritual disciplines. I think that just is just so essential in having that strong relationship with our Heavenly Father.
How has your relationship grown over the years?
Oh, it's grown immensely as I talk about in the book. I was in church all the time growing up. Every Sunday we were in church. After college, got married, had a family. Same thing. We were in church every Sunday, raised my kids in church, but I did not have that really meaningful relationship with God. I thought it was enough to show up on Sunday, serve on a committee, teach a Sunday school class, put money in the offering plate, and I thought that was it, and I could just kind of check the box or boxes and move on. But I realized that it requires so much more.
Mm. What made the change there for you? What happened? Did something happen in your life and you're like, okay, now it's not just the quote religion. You hear that a lot. Religion
Yeah.
versus relationship. And we use Christianity as a relationship, not, quote unquote, a religion. But how did you get from religion and that religious behavior to actually the relationship?
Well, it kind of started. Let me just kind of take you back just a little bit. Around September of 2010, I was led to join a startup, small men's Bible study. And we started off with maybe 4 or 5 guys and then one guy leading it. And so that's kind of how God initially started working on me. And then I asked my family to buy me a Bible. I had Bibles, but they're just kind of scattered all over the house, and really couldn't put my hands on one if I needed one right then. So my family bought me a very nice, genuine leather Bible. But as I mentioned in the book, it was a King James version. So if you are new at studying and reading the Bible, then the King James version sometimes makes things a little difficult. So that, and then my wife and I joined a couples class, a 5-week class. So God was just kind of poking at me, and He continued to poke at me and continued to poke at me. So on February 15th of 2011, I was having my quiet time with Lucy. And all of a sudden, it just hit me that I realized that I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, and that I needed one. And as mentioned in my book, I got on my hands and knees and cried because I realized that I had missed so much, and that I wanted to I wanted that relationship. So that was the historical day for me. And of course, I've been in His Word ever since. And as you mentioned, I'm a certified lay speaker in the Methodist Church, which just allows me to preach in not only my church but other Methodist churches in the area. And I've just done a whole lot of things here. I've written a book, and I'm planning to write a second one. I've started that, and life has been great.
Well, tell us a little bit about Lucy.
Okay. Lucy was actually our second dachshund. Our first dachshund was Sissy, and we got Sissy early on in my marriage with Gail. By the way, we just celebrated our 46th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And I always wonder how she's kept up with me or kept me along for all those years. But nonetheless, we had Sissy, and Sissy lived about 13, 14 years old. And then when my kids were still at home, we got Lucy. And Lucy had quite the personality. She was a loving dog, but she could get a little feisty and a little snippy at times. And so Lucy, when Gail would go to work, my kids are already out of the home. Lucy knew it was time to go into my study and read the Bible. And after a few times of picking her up and carrying into the study, I didn't have to do that after that. She knew she'd be in her little bed. And she saw me walk past her. She would get up and follow me and wait for me to pick her up and put her in my chair with me. So great dog. And we lost Lucy probably about 2015, and we had to put her down. She had a lot of issues. She was about 14, and I tell this little story. My grown son and we decided, okay, we would take her to the vet and have her put down, then brought back and bury her in the back yard in the woods. And we both acted like, that we can handle this. It's not going to be a problem. And as soon as we had put Lucy on the table and the vet gave her the first shot to put her down, we both just, we broke down. And we thought we were going to be really, really strong men. And we broke down. It just, she was part of the family. She grew up with my kids. And I really miss her. And we have not replaced her yet. So I've not had that companion with me during my quiet time in the morning. But maybe one,
Yeah, I have Rico the Morkie, and the listeners and the viewers, they see him and hear him quite often, even on the show. He always tries to make the show, and inevitably, or invariably, I should say, he will bark at just like on cue almost. It's so funny how he does that. But he's just a little 5-pound Maltese Yorkie mix, and I love him. Like, well, I'd give my right hand for him. I just love him so much, and he's just so sweet. And now I've got another big dog. Rico's white and Smokey is gray blackish color, and Smokey is humongous, 50 some pounds, and then there's little Rico. But they've become really good friends now that the two of them are together. But they're like salt and pepper, ebony ivory. I don't know. They're just such a unusual combination of pets to have, of two little dogs. But at any rate, back to the devotional time. Why, or let me just ask it this way: how has that discipline rewarded you in your life, or how has the Lord rewarded you? What is the carrot, so to speak, on the end of that kind of discipline?
Well, I think in several ways. One, it has helped me to be more compassionate, be more understanding of people's needs. We're charged to strive towards perfection, which we will never reach, but we're charged to strive towards perfection and to have those qualities that Jesus has. And I think in one way, it just has given me a sense of of understanding, of generosity, just those qualities that we all need to have and have more of. And I just think hopefully people would agree that I'm a better person by having that relationship with Jesus I'm a better person now. And
Mm.
just realizing, uh, I've told people, I think the two main benefits, if that's the right word to use, being a Christian and having a relationship with Jesus, is hope and peace. Those are the two main things I think about, is having that hope of everlasting life, and peace of getting just getting through the struggles of everyday life, and realizing that God's got it. If I may, I'll just give you an example. And I'm not, please don't think I'm patting myself on the back, because I'm not. But I had cancer surgery back in 2016, and getting over the initial shock of the doctor saying you've got cancer. Gail and I, my wife, we just said, God, just take it, and go with it in any way that you feel like you need to go with it. So I'm in the hospital bed before surgery, and my dear pastor at the time came in to see Gail and I, and to pray with us before they rolled me down to the operating room. And she mentioned later, I think she may have even mentioned this in church, that Gail and I were so at peace pre-surgery, laying in that hospital bed. And again, I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but having a relationship with Jesus will give you that peace. Now, do I still worry? Yeah, I still worry about a lot of things, but I have a lot more peace than I used to. So I think those are the two key components of having hope and having that peace. I don't know
Mm.
if that was responsive to your question or not, but
Oh, yeah, I think whether they're benefits, or I like to call them privileges. As
yeah,
Christians, we have amazing privileges in the Lord, and certainly being at peace would be one of those, and allowing that peace to really permeate our everyday existence, because the world can be a really scary place. But if we choose to shift our thoughts and we really think about who God is and what he says about himself and what he says about our circumstance, there is peace there. There is hope there. I think for me personally, it's when I give way to what I think about a situation, my own fears and worries, what I think about, even what I think about God, if it's not true, can lead me down a road where there's no peace. There's just chaos and unrest or disrest. And so yeah, I think that developing that we do have benefits and or privileges as being believers and Christ followers. And back to the discipline of having that devotional, was there ever a time, I know you said you developed that discipline over many years in a row, and I just wonder, for me, sometimes I don't, it's not that I'm not prioritizing God, because he is number one to me, but sometimes, well, for example, if an emergency happens with my family, or sometimes when I wake up and I'm like, oh dear, I'm late, or I'm past this, I've got this to do, or something that I didn't get done the night before that is pressing really hard. I've got a deadline or whatever. So my quote devotion may be, Lord, I thank you for this day. Guide me here, or, instruct me in the way to go. And then that's it. It's like, okay, 30 seconds. Did you ever have a day like that? Or were you a little bit more, did you manage to carve out that time without fail?
well, I really have, and I'm sure over the years there have been um, a more brief or shortened time with the Lord in the morning. But I've just, this is kind of a overly used phrase, but it's just become part of my DNA. And I have had my quiet times in a lot of different places. I mean, if I'm traveling, or if Gail and I are on, gone on vacation, or wherever, I have I've had my quiet times and not the ideal situation, which I consider to be in my study at my house, but I've had them, in motel bathrooms to where I wouldn't cut on the light to wake up Gail if she's still in the bed, or I've had it in just various places. But I've just kind of developed this just a it's not a habit, because I think a habit doesn't connotate really good things, but it's just something that I just do, and I don't know how else to explain it. But again, I'm sure I've had some mornings where it's been a quick prayer, and then out the door I go.
Yeah, and then we have God throughout our day also. I think whether it's listening to praise and worship
Yeah,
music, saying how we kind of dialogue in prayer all day long, we have that connection. Was there
yeah,
ever a time, Dawn, where you kind of your soul had a famine of sorts, or where you recognized, oh gosh, I'm missing the Lord here? Did you ever go
yeah.
through a season like that?
Right. I would. Yeah. There've been times where I just felt like I would go through my morning time, and then after I went through it, I kind of thought, wait a minute, what did I just do? What did I just read? What did I just learn? What did I cover? Yeah, there've been times, and or where I just thought, man, I just can't get anything out of what I'm reading here. I mean, it's just kind of like I'm not focused. I've got all of these various things kind of going through my head, and all that. Um, I've even was, and I still do some kind of online devotionals that I'll kind of weave into my quiet time. But then I would find myself in the middle of my quiet time. Well, let me just check that email real quick, because some my online devotionals are kind of through emails, or let me check that text or something. I said, oh, wait a minute now, that's not good. So I need to kind of stay away from that. So I try to. I still look at it some, but I try to stay away from that, because that was really providing a major distraction for me. So it's not all perfect every single morning with Don Hawker and his quiet time with the Lord. It's not perfect. I don't want to
Right.
suggest that it is.
Right. But I interviewed a gentleman. Well, I think he was in my first season, the first year of the podcast, and now we're in our third season. And we were actually talking about suicide. That was his topic. He was a Christian counselor in my home city of Lexington. And he spoke, I'll never forget it, because he spoke about listening to God and keeping a listening journal. And he stressed the importance of being still before the Lord. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't. This is our get her done yesterday culture. How do I just sit still? For somebody like me, I run on, I don't know what octane is really in a car, but
Right.
if it's higher and you go faster or whatever,
Yeah.
or the fastest car, that's kind of what I feel like I'm running on. Even just sitting here to do interviews, sometimes like I'm tapping my feet, I just have a lot of energy going. And so
Yeah.
it's a challenge for me to actually sit down, to
Yeah.
rest, to be still and know that God is God. It requires, it's like that trying to quiet a child, that you've had those toddlers or those kids and you're just like, sit down and be quiet, just sit down and just slow down. And I feel like that sometimes, and it's uncomfortable to just sit
Yeah.
sometimes. But when I was talking with Stephen, the Christian counselor, he spoke so highly of. I mean, I believe he may have even had tears in his eyes as he shared the impact of that communal time with the Lord every day. And it may have not been day in, day out without fail, but he made a point. He chose to sit down and to listen to God, to pray, but then to be quiet before him, just to listen, to see what the Spirit might impress upon his heart. I'm not talking about like speaking to him in an audible voice, or we didn't even go there in that
Right.
direction, but it was just that unction, that the Spirit and how he may move. And it could be through at the point that we begin reading the verses, or engaging, or thinking about what we're thinking about, which is what I try to do a lot, that God shows up and enters into that. But do you have any tips
Yeah.
on being still and
Yeah.
listening?
Well, that has got to be one of the practices that we Christians struggle with, and it's
Mhm.
simply because of the life that we live and the society that we're in, and that we have so many things going on, and it is hard to take some time and to listen, to meditate. That's something that I struggle with, but I'm working on, because I think that I agree with your counselor. I think that is so important, is to just be quiet and be still, and just find a place, wherever that might be, to lessen the distractions
Mhm.
that you may encounter, and start off slow. You think, oh, meditation, I got to sit over here for an hour and listen. Start off just for a couple minutes and kind of work on that, and kind of build your ability to sit and be quiet, and to listen. But yeah, that's something that I mean, man, you talk about living a fast-paced life. I mean, that we all do to some degree, and that's difficult, but that is it's really important practice to do, and to sit and listen. And uh, God's going to touch your heart. He will touch
Mhm.
your heart in some way. He's gonna put a feeling, a good feeling, in you some way or another, if you just give him a chance. I mean, he's sometimes we try to limit God and what he's able to do, but he's limitless, and he's amazing on what he can do for us, if we just give him a chance. And
Mm,
yeah,
amen.
amen. Yeah, I mean, I just think back on so many things and say, man, God's hand was just all over that. Maybe I didn't realize it at the beginning, but looking back over it, man, God's hand was just all over that. He's uh
Mm,
he's amazing. He really is.
right. And if we're not careful to listen or to slow down, sometimes we can miss it. Have you ever missed a nudging of the Spirit, where it's you have that nudge, but you don't really pay attention to it, and you just
Right,
rush on to the next thing, and then you're
right.
like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah,
if only I had, that
yeah,
would have taken me in a different direction and maybe been much more helpful. It's those, so if we begin to practice that and start small. I love that you mentioned that. That's exactly what Stephen said. He said, set your timer for 5 minutes.
yeah,
And just, even if you're, and I'm like, I was just already getting antsy when he said that. And like, I would rather eat a bucket of nails to do
yeah,
that. And he said, no, just now studying God's word and looking up the Hebrew and the Greek and digging deep and all of that, I love. And writing, I love. But just to sit still and listen, whoo, that was
yeah,
hard. But I did start that, and I went through that. I think I challenged myself to do it for so many days, and it was so rewarding. And sometimes now I'm like, oh my gosh, I need 5 minutes just to listen to the Lord
yeah,
and to try to do that. So this is a good reminder, and I'm hopeful that also the listeners or the viewers will really be encouraged to pick up your book, and to allow that to give a little bit of the scaffolding to their devotional time. If they don't, because some people are like, I don't know what to do or how to do it. And it may be just reading the Bible, and starting there, but to go through with a hard copy of a devotional that guides us a little bit. And then I would suggest that you allow the Lord to really then lead you from there, and kind of fill in the gaps on some of that. So having something structured like a devotional, I think, is very helpful tool that we Christians can use. And it also keeps our mind like, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. And, oh, that's a good word for today. Or, yes, I'm going to be more compassionate, as you said earlier, or might make me be more generous, or to begin to think about things that maybe I'm not thinking about if I don't take that time to enter into that relationship, or foster that relationship with the Lord. So tell everybody, Don, how they can get your book or stay in touch with you.
It's available on Amazon. My publisher is High Bridge Books, and it's available through them. And let me just mention one thing. I've had a lot of people be very kind in what they've said about my book, but the one consistent thing that people have said, that it is very simply written. It's not deep theologically. I couldn't get real deep theologically, and I mentioned in my book, I'm not a theologian. I'm not a Bible scholar. I just love reading God's word. But it is simple to read. So if someone is new to the faith, then this book, I hope they will find it refreshing and maybe a little informative, and I mix some humor throughout the book as well. I think that's vitally important in all our faith journey, is to have humor, and so hopefully people will enjoy it.
Is that your next book, all about humor?
No. My next book is going to be just me, Lucy, and the Lord 2. And
okay.
So it's the same format, devotionals, and it's going to be set up the same. And then probably maybe later on some other different type things that I may get involved in.
But humor sprinkled throughout then.
It is. There's 2 consistent things in there. Is humor, and I talk a lot about my wonderful family. And and I've related some of the devotions to something about one of my kids or my wife, and so maybe some folks can relate to some of my family experiences.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Don, for appearing on the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast today. We really appreciate having you.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too.